What's going on, guys? It's Mike for Sim Racing 604, and the full car and track list for Project Cars 3 on its release day of August 28th has been announced. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through what cars and what tracks are going to be included in the title on its release, and I'm going to give my opinion. I think some of the things they've included are really cool, and I think other things are not so cool, so I'll get into all that. Let's do this. Alright guys, so we'll start off with the cars here, and as you can see we are going in alphabetical order. These are the Acuras, NSX and NSX GT3. A cool inclusion in my opinion. The NSX, really one of the nicer looking modern sports cars in my opinion, and not a common one in sim racing surprisingly, so cool to have it back. And then the second brand alphabetically is the first head scratcher. This is the Agajanian. So classic Indy car. I don't know anyone who played this in PC2. I don't know why they bothered to include it in PC3, but here we go. And then on to Alpine, the A110S, very cool car, and then the A110 GT4, also a very cool car. Nice inclusion with these Alpines. Aston Martin DB11, it was a pretty cool sounding car in PC2, I'm glad to have it back. And then we have a racing spec of it. It doesn't look like it's homologated to any race series, so I'm very excited to test that one out. DBR1 300, another nice inclusion. It was a great car in PC2. Hopefully it will be awesome in PC3 as well. And then we get into the Vantages, and just about any spec series you can name has a Vantage, including endurance. We don't have pit stops in PC3, but we have endurance cars, so we'll see how that works out. And then, as most of you, or some of you may know, I hated the Vulcan in PC2, but we have a Vulcan AMR Pro, so hopefully the handling is improved versus PC2. Moving on now to Audi, the 90 Quattro IMSA GTO. Love this car, fantastic car, great inclusion here. More endurance cars that we can't run in endurance races thanks to no pit stops, but it is what it is. R8 V10, another cool supercar. R8 LMS has pretty much become a staple in sim racing. And then we have a couple of TTs there. And then this inclusion, this is very cool. The V8 Quattro DTM, great inclusion. And then the BAC Mono here, I liked it in PC2. It wasn't a popular car, but I liked it. So as far as sort of far out road cars, this is a great one. And then there are Bentleys. This is the newest spec of GT3 here. Yeah, 2017 spec. Yeah, very cool. And the Speed 8, classic Le Mans winning car, awesome inclusion. BMWs, just about every racing sim has a lot of Lotuses and a lot of BMWs. PC3 looks like it'll be no exception. So it goes back into these older ones, and I mean, I don't know how many people are going to really be driving these, but they are cool cars. And then you get into M1 Pro car, so a lot of classic BMWs, very cool. And M6 GT3 and the Z4 GT3, so kind of an older GT3. Probably could have been scrapped in the name of this, but who cares? Oops, in the name of this is what I meant to say. And Bugatti, yes, Bugatti has made it over officially to Project Cars. This is the Chiron Sport, 1500 horsepower, 8-liter quad turbo. That should be enough. So very cool. Speed limited to 420 kilometers an hour. Nice inclusion. Cadillacs, it's the same Cadillac from PC2 to sort of fill out the GT3 field. Caterhams, got two of them, the 620R and the 620R Racing. Sorry, the 620R Racing. And yeah, these are very cool cars. I like them in a lot of sims now. So good inclusion in my opinion. Chevrolet, this classic Z28. This is something that, in my opinion, could have been cut. You know, we heard that Project Cars 3 was going to be sort of a toned down, more focused version of a racing sim versus Project Cars 2, but it seems like they've included a lot of stuff that really would push it outside of trimmed down. So anyway, you get a 69 Trans Am Camaro Z28. And then you get the ZL1 or ZL1, depending on your part of the world. Camaro, very cool car. and the GT4 version of it. I love that car or I learned to love that car, I should say, in ACC. So cool to have it in PC3. Z06 Chevrolet Corvette C7R, and then we get the C8. We had been waiting a long time to see when this C8 would make it over to Racing Sims. This is the first one to have it officially, I believe. So very cool. And then the race version. I was hoping we would have this as a mod for Assetto Corsa by now, but we do not. So cool inclusion to have the C8R. And Lotus seems to just lend their classic race cars to anyone who asks. So yeah, there's a bunch of these classics. Much like the vintage Indy, it's like, are these beautiful classic race cars? Yes. Is anyone going to use them? Nope, I doubt they will. So again, not dissing the cars, but it's just like, who's really going to use all these classic Lotuses? Yeah, I mean, again, great looking. Look at that thing. That thing is gorgeous, but I don't know that anyone will ever use it. That's just my opinion. But I think that probably could have been trimmed. The Hellcat Red Eye. This is cool. Almost 800 horsepower. We're into the Dodges now, by the way. There's the Challenger SRT HCR. What? And the write-up, I think, is the same between the Red Eye and the HCR Racing. Yeah, so I don't know what this will be in terms of horsepower, but it doesn't look slow. That one will be fun. And then a recent generation Viper ACR. This is awesome to have. And then a Viper ACR Racing as well. So very, very cool inclusions here. Moving on now to the Ferraris. A few classics here. This 333 SP was a very cool car in PC2, so glad to see it included. And then some of the ones that made it in late with the Ferrari DLC for Project Cars 2, like the Speciale A, one of my favorite cars in PC2, did make it over. 488 Challenge, also a great addition. And as we come along to the very end of this list, the Enzo, rare car, beautiful car, one of my favorites all time. F12 TDF. F40 LM, F50 GT, just crazy, crazy nice Ferraris in here. LaFerrari, of course, and then the FXXK, probably the fastest Ferrari ever built that can be purchased. So very nice. Moving on now to Ford. Get rid of the vintages. I don't know. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe everyone races these, but I just don't see a lot of it when I go online. But anyway, we have a supercar. That'll be nice. Rallycross car, awesome. Fusion stock car, I like that. So they brought back the stock cars. Ford GT, of course. More endurance cars. Classic endurance, the legendary Mark IV. Fastback Racing, that's a cool one. That's a cool one. Classic Trans Am. There's a lot of Fords here. The Zaxpeed Capri Group 5, awesome. Really cool addition. So there are some very cool cars here, but again, I just question who's really going to run these that often, but that's just me. And for the first time, it's not in here yet. I'm guessing this is a licensing thing to see how many decals they can get on it, but the Formula E Generation 2 car. There's, by the way, a lot of electric cars in this lineup. Moving on now to Ginetta, the GT5, where most of us started out our PC2 career. It has been included, as well as a number of other Ginettas, which we're starting to see more commonly across different sims, and the Hondas. You guys know I'm a fan of the Type R. This is the wrong Type R. Guys got to update this. I was really hoping this would be updated, but it has not been. And same as this, the IR18. Notice anything missing? Yeah, it's not modern. It's not modern. Obviously, it doesn't have the windscreen. So that's a very telltale sign of the modern IndyCar, or the current year IndyCar that's not made it over. This is a cool looking Jag. The F-Type SVR Coupe, another great car. And then we have a racing version. So it seems like a lot of these cars will get racing versions, which is a great idea. Koenigsegg Jesko, not sure how to say that. The car is insane. 5-liter twin-turbo V8, 1,600 horsepower, so it'll go nicely with that Bugatti we were looking at earlier. And then there's a couple more that I think will contend with it as well. The KTM Crossbow R and the GT4 version. Lambos, gotta have Lambos. Surprisingly, no SVJ. There's the SVJ Racing, but I don't think the Aventador is the SVJ version by the looks of things. So that stinks. Veneno, kind of a weird, ugly, useless car in my opinion. Diablo GTR, very cool. And Sesto Elemento is back. Ligier, a couple of prototype cars here. The Lotus Evija, I believe that's how you say that. And that's going to be a cool one. 2,000 horsepower in this all-electric. 0 to 300 in 9 seconds. Nuts. And then a couple of Exages. Is that how you say that? Very cool looking. 430 horsepower, 1,100 kilos. I like it. I like it already. And then the McLarens. McLarens are another staple. The 570S GT4, awesome addition. 720S Coupe, the cover model from PC2 is back. 720S GT3 here for the first time. You've seen a lot of that in the previews for the game. The McLaren F1, excellent car. Obviously one of the all-time great cars, and great inclusion here, as well as the long tail version with a cool livery. I like that. And the greatest car ever built, the McLaren P1. And then the P1 GTR as well. The Red Pig is here, along with a number of other Mercedes. GTR, beautiful looking car. Love this inclusion. And of course the GT3. Is the GT3 in every single sim you can name? I think it pretty much is. And moving over to the classic Mercedes. There's a couple of cool ones here. And Mitsubishi, we saw Mitsubishi in the previous Project Cars title, and an assortment of Lancers. Nissan, lots of Nissans. GTR, I was hoping the new Nissan GTR would make it in here. They fitted it out with the GT3 Turbo, and apparently it's just even faster now. It's just mind-blowing, so hoping to see that included, but it's not. This R89C, one of the best cars in PC2. And the previous gen, or this is the R34, sorry, Skyline, very nice addition, and the racing version. And moving right along here, the Opel Astra TCR, Paganis, of course. Still no Zonda R. Is this the Zonda R? That's it. It's Revolution. Yeah, no, so this is an evolution of the Zonda R, so there's not a true Zonda R quite yet, and I don't know why. Panos Esperante GT1, very cool. And of course Porsche. What's a racing sim without a whole bunch of Porsches? And there's some nice ones in here. What's missing though, well, there's a couple that are missing of note. GT3 RS, where's the GT2 RS? Need to see that. And the Weissach 918 Spider, very cool addition. And I was hoping to see the Taycan, since they love their electrics in this edition, but it's not the case. No hybrid Evo either. So this is going to turn some heads, obviously, the 935/78. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, let's move on now. Radical. I believe, is this the same one? It was the RXC Turbo in the last one. I don't know if this is the same one or not, but that was a cool car for sure. The Renault, one of my favorite cars is this RS01. I love this car. Glad to see it back. Bunch of Megans, and then this thing with a ridiculous scoop. I love that A442B, cool looking car. The Rimac C2, I believe Rimac is how you pronounce it. And this is another insane electric, top speed of 415 kilometers an hour, 0 to 60 sub 2. Crazy car. And the Slightly Mad Studios, they're Formula cars. This looks to be, by the name and the design, a Formula 2 car. It's got the halo, so they've updated it. Very cool. Formula Rookie is back. Hopefully it's drivable. Formula X is back. Don't love it, but it's back. And then the Stadium Super Trucks, great addition. I love these as a racing series, so very neat. And finally, Toyota. So yeah, more endurance cars. So as you can see, guys, there's a lot on offer here, a lot that I think should have been cut. A lot of these classic cars that I don't know anyone who touches them, and they don't really fit into a race series per se. I think they could have gone by the wayside, but it is what it is. And as well, the endurance cars, if you're not going to have sort of endurance rules, what's the point of having endurance cars? But anyway, let's move on to the tracks. All right, guys, so moving on to the circuits, the racetracks now, and we'll go in alphabetical order of country. So start off with Australia, of course, Bathurst, Mount Panorama, gotta have it. Next, Belgium. Zolder is the only one listed. You notice any other famous Belgian circuit that's missing, possibly could form a DLC? Odd that it's not included. Odd that there's no Spa, I gotta say. Interlagos for Brazil. Cool. Good inclusion for sure. And a couple of tracks from China. Shanghai and Zhuhai. Not one of my favorite courses, but I have heard good things about Zhuhai. And then Shanghai, I mean, that cityscape is looking pretty amazing. Moving on now to Havana, another cityscape that looks absolutely gorgeous. I love it. I can't wait to try this out. I think it's going to be an amazing, I guess it's a fantasy circuit. And Czech Republic, we have Brno. I really enjoyed it. I actually learned a lot about the PC2 physics from getting used to it at Brno. I don't love the flow of the track overall, but a good place to sort of learn a car. And the UAE, we have the Dubai course here. Man, they're really nailing these cityscapes in the background here. That looks absolutely gorgeous. And Great Britain, it looks like there's a ton here. So Brands Hatch, Caldwell Park, Donington, Liddon Hill, Oulton Park, of course Silverstone and Snetterton. So it really looks like they nailed the British tracks here. There's a lot on offer. Fantastic. France. Okay, so looks like we have a classic track here, Rouen-les-Essarts. I don't know how you say that properly, but looking cool in the rain there. And then we have the Azure Coast. You guys know I love that. Real cool fantasy track from the first, from Project Cars 2. But again, talking about famous race courses that are missing, when you think of France, don't you think of Le Mans? Especially the classic layout that was so good in PC2. I'm sad that it's not been included here in this list, but hopefully someday down the road it will be added. So moving on now to Germany, Hockenheimring, of course, Nürburgring, of course. Actually, 9 layouts of Nürburgring. So yes, rest easy, people. You will get your Nordschleife. And then Germany, Oschersleben. Butchered that name, I'm sure, but pretty cool looking track here. And then the Leipzig test track for Porsche. Off-road track. Interesting. And next up we have Italy. Imola is back. Excellent. Monza, of course. Tuscany. Doesn't that look gorgeous? Can't wait to go through that fantasy course there on the Tuscan hills. Looks amazing. Pista di Fiorano, that's the Ferrari test track, so probably it'll be regulated like it was in PC2 where you're only allowed to drive Ferraris there, we'll see. And then this one, Mugello, so yeah, cool inclusion. Mugello, one of my favorites. Japan now, and we have Fuji, we have Sugo, and we have Sakito. Suzuka, where are you, Suzuka? Monaco, of course, looks like we only have the one layout there, so the modern, it's okay. Don't really need the classic, I guess. And Ruapuna, sorry if I butchered that, New Zealand in Christchurch. So that's looking good. Look at that mountain in the background. Wow, they really nail it graphically. Portimao, of course, gotta have it. Algarve. And then moving on to Scotland, Knockhill, and the one I've been so excited to tell you guys about, Bannockbrae is back. Yes, one of the coolest fantasy tracks ever is going to be back, so happy to see that. And South Africa, Wildcrest, no Kyalami, unfortunately. Saw the South African flag, I got all excited, but no Kyalami, unfortunately. Catalunya from Spain, and also Jerez. And we are getting dangerously close to the end already. So good old US&A. We have the California Highway fantasy track. Daytona Daytona International Speedway, 2 layouts of it. So obviously we have the oval and the road. Awesome. Indianapolis Motor Speedway, how many layouts? 2 layouts, so road and oval again. Indianapolis Motor Speedway, actually probably the best version was in PC2, so great to see it included. Mojave, USA, nice looking desert track. Monument Canyon, this looks to be something sort of out of the Forza series, so I would guess a fantasy track ripping through the desert. Road America, one of the best in the world in my opinion. Sonoma, another excellent track. Texas Motor Speedway, love it, love it. Got to get those, was it the Chevrolet? No, what was it? The stock cars anyway. Got to get them out here. And Long Beach is back. Beautiful track at any time of day, but especially at night. Watkins Glen, 1 layout of that. Laguna Seca, gotta have it. And finally, Willow Springs. I messed that up. There we go, Willow Springs to round things out here. So that's it. So I'm happier about the tracks than I am about the cars, guys. The cars, to me, there's so much overlap between PC2 and PC3, and I don't think it's necessarily the best thing. I mean, was I expecting all new content? No, of course not. I was expecting them to bring the best of PC2 over to PC3, especially with the new sort of, apparently sort of streamlined approach. I thought they would sort of trim the fat and get rid of a lot of the things most people didn't use, but you still see a lot of the things included that most people didn't use. So I don't really understand what they were doing with this direction. But what do I know? Hopefully it works out. If they drive great as of August 28th, I'll be happy with, you know, any car. So hoping for the best for this one, but definitely a lot of content, definitely a lot of overlap, some new things I'm very excited about, some of the brand new hypercars that haven't been represented in any other racing sim. Those will be cool to have, definitely. And the tracks seem very on point. There's some notable exceptions. I talked about Le Mans, I talked about couple of things. Anyway, a few of the more notable tracks that you would expect to see are not included. Suzuka, that was another one, are not included in PC3, at least as of right now, but we might see them down the road as DLC, let's hope. So overall, it's a lot, and hopefully it works out. Again, if these cars drive great and these tracks are well done, which I think they will be, then everyone's a winner. Thanks guys for watching. Let me know, what are you excited about? What are you not excited about? And yeah, we'll see you next time.